Hello, good morning. My name is Bertrand Go. Today we're going to be looking at cybersecurity threat to healthcare industries. Go to the next slide, and here is our agenda. We're looking at how cybersecurity put healthcare sector at risk, and looking at how some of the system attack again access to hospital and or hospital sectors data or their system. We're also going to identify the differences between the threat and the vulnerabilities and all this stuff. Here is why the healthcare industry is constantly and if you've watched my previous video, you with most of these things information are there, so I'm just gonna skip some of them, so because most of them are actually follow up, so you might want to watch the previous video. It's also the link is going to be there on the YouTube, so you can just watch it and pick it up from there. Here we're going to look at cyber terrorism, an ongoing global problem that has affected the majority of countries for decades, has actually developed into a current incarnation known as the cyber terrorism. The threat actors' primary objective here are typically to harm people, supporting crucial hospitals relative to that. They want to, and some of them for political reasons, some of them, just for ransom and things like that. And some of the methods they kind of use here include malware, phishing, ransomware, man-in-the-middle attack, and all of that. On the next slide, let's look at potential system attack due to cyber terrorism. We have the ransomware attack. Here within the ransomware attack is an attacker actually hacks your system, or take over the whole system, and you're able to access your system or your information, and the attacker would actually demand a ransom for you to pay before they can release your system, and you have to pay that money and things like that. And here we also have the theft and subsequent sale of hospital data. We know that hospital data contains a lot of information, contains your personal, your PII. Some of them are even related to your insurance, which is might even give tell them how much you're making. Some of them include your card, your ATM information, or your house address and things like that. So that actually calls as a center of attraction for hackers. Another thing, it's going to look at organized crime cybersecurity. The majority of threat actors are actually organized criminals who are often blamed for ransomware headlines, which actually uses which you see so regularly nowadays. In an effort to trick your defense, the strategy, tactics, and equipment are always involving, and all of that. So here we look at some of the potential system attack due to cyber criminals. We have the man-in-the-middle attack. Here, the man-in-the-middle actually plays as a middleman between two endpoints communicating over the network, and so they're able to hijack your information and take over your system and things like that. We have the phishing. With phishing, what the hacker does is they send fake links or send fake emails and trick you into clicking or taking you to a website where they can be able to spoof and get your information and things like that. We have session hijacking. With session hijacking, and this here, man in the middle actually takes, at the end of the day, they always hijack the system by taking over the session. For instance, you are online, you are actually communicating and thinking you are communicating with a person, but you're actually communicating with a system, with a robot or an attacker, and you passing your information. So from there, they're able to get that information and access your system and take over your system. So that's what hijacking does. And some of the activists here is the priority of a hacktivist is awareness building. It means it's good to actually create awareness within a company. It's good for you to know what the attackers are actually out there doing and things like that. For instance, nearly all the information published by the WikiLeaks was actually the work of a hacker who wanted to expose the truth and things like that. So people have different reasons for actually hacking your system. On the next slide, we're looking at potential system attack due to activists. We have a DDoS. With DDoS, is the attacker can actually create a code or try to ping your website and take over the session. And then you end up making it difficult for users or for any other person to access the system, thinking they are actually normal human beings or people within an organization, and at the end of the day, it might actually crash the system and things like that. We have the web attack. We have some of them at the brute force attack, whereby people forcefully put in multiple password, guessing password in order to get into your system. we'll continue to look at the insiders. Finding here as insiders are just I mean, you can or just read over some of these things. We have potential system attack due to insiders. We have password attacks, SQL injection attack. We have malware attacks. I've also provided note for it, which if you have time, you might want to go through it. The differences between here, we're going to look at the differences between a threat and a vulnerability. Now, what is a threat? A threat is actually understood in cybersecurity as anything that takes advantage of a weakness or and compromises the CIA, the data, the people, and other stuff within an organization. That's what a threat does. And while a vulnerability here, a vulnerability is a weakness or a fault or other deficiency in the system. But in here, that other deficiency in the system where a threat can now take an advantage and actually hack the system. So that's a vulnerability. On the next slide, you are going to see the differences between the threat and the vulnerabilities. For threat uses system flaws to actually to their advantage and have the ability to steal and corrupt the data. Meanwhile, vulnerability is known as the vulnerability in hardware, software, or design that could actually make a cyber threat possible. For threat, we have threat. It may or may not be intentional, but meanwhile, vulnerability is generally unintentional. Thread, it may or may not be oh sorry, I think I did a repetition here, which I'm gonna correct it. We have the thread is manageable by addressing the vulnerability. For a vulnerability, it's actually you have to identification, classification, prioritization and resolution of the vulnerability. Before that, all of that needs to be done. So that's it. And on the next slide here, he just have a link that you can on my bibliography that you can click and where I kind of read. You can kind of read and expand the knowledge on some of those. Thank you all. And here is a link to the YouTube assignment to this video, which you can watch it over and over. Thank you.